Hi everyone, this is Elena of the Witches Box, and I'm here today with another episode of Witch Booktube. And today's book is a little bit out of sync with things, but I wanted to drop this book in here because I think that this conversation really picked up last October, maybe last November, about Lilith, and we talked mainly about her, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, in our lives on YouTube, our Tuesday lives. There was a lot of talk about different aspects of Lilith and the deep yearning to explore her more. There are a couple of you in the community, or maybe more than a couple of you, who really have a longing to work more with her, but don't have an idea of where to start. So at the time when that conversation was taking place, I had started to amass and slowly but surely order quite a few books on Lilith, which is like in one of my piles. And I'm very slowly making my way through it. This book that I'm going to share with you today is really a workbook. It's intended sort of as a companion to an anthology that I'm not covering today. The reason I'm not covering it today, because I just want to give you something to work with. And even though you don't have the anthology, this book, I'll show you, which is Lilith Circle Guide, a small group study by Monette Chilson. This book can give you an idea of where that exploration can go, a map for that exploration. There are points in this book that don't specifically reference the anthology, but you know that the anthology can help fill in some of the gaps. So know that right off the bat, that as a way to give you a map for really diving deeper into or introducing yourself into the work with Lilith, this can be really great. But there are other books that should become accompanying this. There is a resource list in here, which is also very valuable. So I just felt like, look, if you want to just jump in, this is a really great way to start, but it really then will lead you to the other books that are in both associated with this publishing house and this author, but also out there from other authors as well. Let me read to you the bio for the author and then we'll get into it. So Monette Chilson recently partnered with Trista Hendren to launch the community learning initiative at Girl God Books. She has written about the divine feminine for the past decade, authoring Sophia Rising, Awakening Your Sacred Wisdom Through Yoga in 2013, and My Name is Lilith for 2017. She edited the original Resistance Reclaiming Lilith, Reclaiming Ourselves in 2019. And wrote the companion Lilith Circle Guide for Group Study in 2021, which is this book. She has contributed to national magazines, including Yoga Journal and Integral Yoga Magazine and Elephant Journal. Monette's work has been featured in several anthologies: Yoga Wisdom, Warrior Tales, Inspiring You On and Off the Mat, and Whatever Works, Feminists of Faith Speak. So there's this. So this is put out by Girl God Books, which have quite a lot of really gorgeous anthologies around different deities, and they're really putting out really beautiful stuff. So this guide, it's a small group study guide, takes you through a series of sessions, and I'm going to read to you from the table of contents so that you know what those sessions are. There's a map for the journey in this book in terms of where you're going to be going, where you're starting, and where you're ending. Then there's 3 different parts. Part 1 is rediscovering Lilith. And there are 3 sessions in here. Who is Lilith, and how has Lilith been distorted and suppressed? And session 3 is, what does Lilith stir or reawaken in you? So these are all sessions in different parts. Part 2 is called Reclaiming Lilith. Session 1 is, what does Lilith have to teach us about feminine strength? Session 5 is, do I have to choose between Lilith and Eve? Session 6 is, how does Lilith's story affect my self-image and my creator image? Then part 3 is reclaiming ourselves. And this is an important part of working with Lilith, but we can talk about that later. Session 7 is, can we embrace parts of ourselves we've rejected as unfeminine? Session 8 is, what does Lilith model that I want more of in my life? And session 9 is, what is one tangible action that Lilith has inspired me to take in my life? There is a further exploration resource list, and then there's a fun bonus page section. There are a couple of pages for Lilith coloring pages, which is, I think, really fun. It's simple. It's not a long book. There's beautiful art. All of it is black and white. And there are sections for notes, right? So I don't know if you can see that. This is really intended as a facilitator's guide for a group study. So you can take this, and if you have a group of friends, 1, 2, 3, 4 other people, whether like together in person or even online together, you can do this as the leader, but there's information here in terms of what your role as a facilitator is and how to carry that out, and what your role as the participant in and how to carry that out, which I think is incredibly helpful, especially for those of you who I've talked to who want to do group but don't quite know how to guide it. So this is really a great way, a lot of different purposes here in this book, I think, because you get to practice leading a group, but it's not a full-on super complex ritual. You are really just leading a study group. And that is a really great way to get your feet wet in that aspect. Now, the fact is that each of these sessions is a deep dive into a specific study. So I'm going to go to the first one, right? So the first one is, who is Lilith? That's the first session. It'll give you scripts. So it'll say leader, discuss, blah, blah, blah. Participants, introduce yourselves. So it'll walk you through the format of how that group gathering needs to go and what you do and when. It doesn't give you times, but it tells you for how long, more or less, to do each of those things. So you've got a script for that, but also it's really based on, let's do these readings, or you share a reading with the group, and then there's a discussion. There's further exploration. There is a list of things to go deeper into if you want to. I don't know that that's necessarily the intention of the book. If you're really wanting to get your feet wet in terms of leading a group, again, online or in person, this is a beautiful way to start because it's simple. You get to get your feet wet in terms of managing a group, managing the timetable, because all of these things don't feel like they're very mystical and romantic and magical, but they're a very real part of priestessing or priesting or facilitating a group, because you have to manage the journey of everyone, what we're doing and when we're doing it, how to flow the energy, how to manage the energy, how to tap into the energy to see where it's at in case you need to like adjust it up or down. In a ritual, there's a lot that goes on all at the same time that the person who's leading or facilitating has to hold space for. It can be a lot. It can be very overwhelming if you haven't had the opportunity to build up that skill. So I don't know that the intention of this book is to help you practice that, but I think it's a fantastic way to do that, because to manage or facilitate or lead a study group is a very different thing than doing that for a ritual. It's a great way to learn. It's much easier. I say it's much easier because I've been doing this for a long time and I know what it means to manage an actual ritual or to priestess an actual ritual. There's a lot going on at once. You have to be multi-connected. This gives you an entry point that is easy, that has a lot of leeway and a lot of room for adjustment and mistakes that don't even feel like mistakes, right? So I love that aspect of it. These are not rituals, it's a study group. So you get the whole script. How do you introduce, what the group tenets, what the intention of this group is going to be, how you're going to manage that, the opening notes. There's some reading quotes that you share with the group so that it kind of creates a tone for what's going to be discussed and what's going to be explored in that group. They give you introductory readings so that you can open up the study. There's invocation, there's an opening of a circle, there's an opening quote, then there's the exploration area that has a question that is dropped into the circle, and then everyone discusses. Then there are suggested readings both after the group has come together, but also for when the group comes together to read it, and then you can discuss it. A lot of these things are actually accessible. They're books that you're going to want to read. So you don't have to necessarily have all of the books in the suggested reading, but if you all as a group agree to one or two, then you can come to the table, you can come to the circle and have a discussion based on the reading that you had. I really, really love this. It's simple, but it's also really rich and detailed for people who really want a guide. You know, you get prompted, there's journaling time, and the amount of time that you allow for that, and the amount of time that you allow for the silence before and after that. And then they give you homework. There's a benediction. There's a way to close a circle. There's a sharing. I feel like we need more of these out there, because I know more and more people, more and more of you are wanting a guide. Like, here's a guide. You want to go dive deep into this with other people. Here's a roadmap for all of you to go through together and have an experience together. And there leaves enough room for what is really the juice, which is the in the moment, spontaneous experience that that particular group will always have with each other, that is uniquely that group's experience, right? Because this group, like group A, could be going through the workbook and group B could be going through the workbook, and they're going to probably come out at the end with a very different experience just based on who shows up. And not one is better than the other. It's just that it's the beauty of, or the alchemy of, bringing certain people together and what they create together and what they're needing together and what shows up together for them. So, I mean, look, it's a way to get started. more books are going to be discussed, so trust that. But I wanted to just drop this in for you because I know that this is a desire that's coming up more and more and more. I think Lilith is stirring in a really big way. Certainly, she has been incredibly revolutionary in my life. And so to feel that other people are coming through with this desire for more connection with her, I think speaks volumes to the energy that's moving in time right now. So yeah, this is it. If you're interested, this is what I recommend. If you have friends that you know want to go through this with you, that's great. You can also find community online to do this. We have our free online forum where you can like post a thread to see who's also interested in this and then coordinate that way so that you can all meet together on Zoom or Skype or all the other 5 million ways that we get together live. But I think it's a really beautiful way to practice those skills while also diving into who Lilith is and who she is to you, and what about your life right now is really calling you to this work. I think that's really pivotal. So leave comments down below if this is work that you're interested in, because I know there's a few of you, but I feel like there's probably more than the ones that I know. And if you've read anything else on Lilith and other books, and please give me those references below, because I'd love to dive into as many as I can. Like I said, I've been ordering slowly and adding to my to be read pile for Lilith. So I'm looking forward to really just taking that journey this year. So you'll be hearing more about this. All right, my loves. See you next week. Bye.